answer to the question of our mortality. With resolute defiance, we choose to grasp at the delicate thread of life. My son, the gift of survival is yours. Please, may you never submit. There will be more.
Oh, they've done it! Steven Gerrard, an instant hero! Can you believe this? Plenty attacking! No! The comeback is complete! A stunning second half from Schalke!
Blau-Weiß sein Leben lang. Herzlich willkommen zurück auf Schalke America Season Review. Not our review, it's a Schalke Season Review. I'm your host, Richard Carmen. Joining me as always for this season wrap-up, Jack Mangan. Jack, Glück auf.
Not a victory Monday,
Nope.
but it is a victory Monday because we get to put a button on this season, which was not a pleasant one overall. But doing well.
Yeah, man, it's a hell of a long season for us. A lot to get into in tonight's episode. Rundown for tonight's show. Obviously, the season's over. We're going to be doing a review here, talking about what players and managers are leaving, who's staying. We'll talk about expectations for this summer and going into next season. Ben Manga, he's obviously the new man on the street. What does he need to address this upcoming off season? And then we'll end it up with some of our awards here. I see Eric's already ahead of us in the Discord with his awards, but we'll get to his and then ours as that show wraps up. But Jack, season is over. I guess before we get into our stuff here, the Bundesliga and the Bundesliga table isn't quite complete just yet. We got the relegation playoff between Bochum, who finished in 16th place in the Bundesliga, against Dusseldorf, who finished in 3rd place in the Zweite Liga. The games are on the 23rd, I think, first in Bochum, and then the 27th at Dusseldorf. Big games. What are you thinking about this game? Because obviously, we were talking about this on Discord a lot. Mainz is probably the team in the Bundesliga that could probably take on any of these Zweite Liga clubs. Bochum, though, they've had a struggle of a season, and Dusseldorf is one of the better teams in the league. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and potentially embarrass myself and just say that I actually strongly favor Dusseldorf to go up in this one. I thought Dusseldorf was pretty strong this campaign. Certainly offensively, we know that. Well-rounded. I mean, look, you expect these teams in terms of their goals for and goals against to kind of be like, reverse images of each other. One's at the top of the table, one's at the bottom. But, Bochum, super leaky defense. Dusseldorf strong, the entire season. I think they have some good players in the squad. I like Dusseldorf personally.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think Solis, he's with them. He won the Golden Boot this year. Obviously, Dusseldorf. We talked about it. They have no superstars, but they're such a good team all the way around, and they showed it this season. I mean, they put up feels like they put up 15 goals against us. I know it's not the case, but they're really a good team. I mean, if this season had gone any longer, they probably would have challenged Holstein Kiel and St. Pauli at the top. Again, Hamburg didn't make it out of the Zweite Liga. I don't know if you want to drink that or not, but I'm with you. I think Dusseldorf has got to be the favorites in this. Yes, I know Bochum comes from the Bundesliga, so they're going to have that experience. But
I think it's also from my perspective. I know, we're talking about recent history in the chat right now. Saying recent history. Obviously, the Bundesliga teams tend to defend more often than not, which is certainly true. For me, I feel like a lot of the pressure is on the Bundesliga team though, to not, and especially when it's this leaky of a defense against this competent of an offense with that added pressure. Personally, I have a feeling about Düsseldorf, but who knows? We'll have to see. Will Gonzalo Paciencia manage to stay up with Bochum? A man I know we're all rooting for and still watching close.
Yeah. I had it confused. I thought Maurice Bülter was on Bochum, but he's actually on Hoffenheim, so he's going to maybe get Champions League football here. I think they have, or maybe he did get it. But yeah, it's the trend, as Ryan points out, has been behind the Bundesliga. Union's probably the last one I think he's correct in that. Last year, everyone expected Hamburg to move on. They won the first leg, and then they choked in the second leg. Of course, the winner of that game last year, Stuttgart, ended up being one of the best teams in the league in the Bundesliga this year. So anything can happen in these games, but I'm going to be watching. I'm with you. I think Dusseldorf has got to be the favorites. No pressure for them. And for me, for next season, I'd almost rather face Bochum than Dusseldorf because we already tasted Dusseldorf and they're pretty good.
Fair. We'll see how it goes.
Ryan says only 2 since 2011. Dusseldorf was actually the most recent before Union. So there you go.
Hey, it's more fun to root for the underdog. Let's have our fun.
So Bochum then?
Yeah, right.
All right. Reviewing the season that was. It is finally over. We finished 10th place. We kind of knew this already going into this match week. Worst we could finish was 10th place. Best we could finish was 10th place. Not obviously the best of results against the Firth, but doesn't matter at this point. Our objective was met against Rostock and Elversberg. Osnabrück, and so overall, obviously, we both predicted Schalke to finish way higher. I may have been top 3. I think you were top 6, but it's better than where we were 2 months ago, maybe 2.5 months ago. So how do you look at the season with 10th place finish?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, we got much closer to where I thought we'd be than we were looking for most of the season. But I think that's why, like, on the whole of the season, it certainly is a lot worse than we were looking like. I mean, I was kind of projecting, like I said, like somewhere between probably 6th and 9th with like, I don't know, 8 games remaining or something like that, with a chance to go on a run and like maybe have an outside shot at making the top 3. I didn't think we would be in that, but I thought we would have like a potential to like compete for it. Really, where we were with 8 games remaining was closer to having a chance to compete for relegation and trying to avoid that. So yeah, it was significantly lower starting point, but ended up with a respectable 10th place in the end, but certainly not where this team wants to be or kind of where we should be in the second division based on obviously the stature of the club.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we've seen, at least in the last 3 seasons, is that we've had these end of season runs, right? And 2 years ago when we won despite the Liga, we won 8 games in a row. We won 8 games in a row to win the title. Last year, trying to survive the Bundesliga, we went on a run and just fell short. And then this year, again, we won 8-9 games unbeaten at the end of the season. Only if we could start the season well, we'd have a chance. Obviously, 4 years ago was really the bad season when we got relegated. But overall, we gave up so many goals at the beginning of the season, leaking goals, kind of why Gerards came in and hoped to stop that leaking ship. But with Rice in there, we ended up with a -7, which isn't terrible because at one point I think we were -20 something, weren't we?
I'm not
We were
sure.
pretty bad. We were pretty bad. So we of the 43 points we picked up, I feel like most of them happened after Gerards. We did do, and I do want to do a recap or review video of our Gerards introduction video and see like what did he hit, because just from first glance of without reviewing that video, a lot of the stuff that we were hoping to see didn't really transpire. Did he make us look more organized? Where we look better defensively? Sure, but all those things that we were hoping to see, at least I was hoping to see from reviewing him at in Belgium, didn't really come to fruition. I mean, what are your thoughts overall on Gerards? Yes, he was able to stable the ship for the season, but how would you grade him?
He sort of had a weird tenure because, ultimately, I think you'd have to say that his tenure was a success because we stayed up and ultimately we're closer to mid-table, and obviously things were looking pretty poor initially to start the season. Yeah. But he was in charge for like 25 Bundesliga team matches, maybe like 26 matches total if you want to include like the Pokal against, I think, St. Pauli.
I thought, yeah.
And the first basically the first half of those matches that he presided over, he had the same number of wins as like the second half. Yeah. It was really a question of whether we were losing games, and we had I think probably like 6 or 7 losses in his first 13, and we only had like 3 in his second half. So we were just picking up those extra draw points, avoiding some of those big negatives. Like you said, we went on like an unbeaten run at the end. Still weren't converting enough of those into wins to really like meaningfully climb the table in any kind of way. But yeah, steady the ship, stop some of the bleeding. And so from that perspective was a success. I do think he was tactically flexible to an extent. We saw, some different initial starting shapes and different, personnel selections. I think he found something that he had confidence in towards the end of the season in terms of a more, set starting 11. Certainly during that run, with like the Top and Terada combination up top and Karaman in the starting lineup and in a pretty stable back line, in terms of at least health allowing, particularly when it comes to like our left back and right back situation. But I guess my question is what were the main things that you felt he fell short on in terms of your expectation, what you were hoping to see?
Well, bringing the team together, I think in a way, the team that ultimately became his bread and butter in terms of starting 11 did get closer, but he also alienated a lot of people, right?
That's noise,
a lot of noise. Also, offensively, I was hoping to see a better finishing product. We did see better movement, I think, and we looked better up until the final third compared to when Rice was here and even previous tenures, but still that finishing quality was lacking, and a lot of it has to do with service as well, but the goal scoring was certainly an aspect that was lacking for me. And then after that, I don't know. I mean, those are the two main ones for me. How about you? What about you?
I, I can understand sort of like the reunification of the squad being an aspect of it. I guess and we'll talk maybe a little bit about this later when we're talking about Ben Manga, but I thought it was interesting that one of the comments he made was talking specifically about mentality and like making sure that they are going after people that want to be at the club, and that he said something along the lines of like mentality can beat talent, if talent isn't applied correctly, kind of a thing, which maybe he's going to outline part of their recruitment philosophy. I don't know, but really seeming to like hold themselves accountable and making that a deal breaker, essentially. Like, hey, we're in bad straits. We're struggling to find any kind of quality given our finances to put in the squad, but we're not going to compromise on like attitude and character and buy into the project just to kind of get some quality. Like, we're really going to hold ourselves to that. Yeah. So I think like some of those comments to me are maybe indicative of the situation being something that a coach can't even fix, because it really is just like that extensive of a personnel issue that you just need to kind of clean house. So who knows? I mean, I think we'll figure that out over time, because I think there is going to be another squad overhaul this summer. And I think if a similar thing happens with Gerarts in the future, despite this sort of renewed recruitment effort, to the contrary, then I think maybe we can put more of that blame at his feet.
Well, I had this note to talk about later, but since we're talking about it now, we'll bring it up. So it seems like, and obviously we see nothing official just yet, but it seems that all indications that Gerarts will remain next season. We did put a poll in the Discord. Seems like it's 100% in favor of Gerarts staying. You and I talked about continuity is probably the best thing right now for us, and having Gerarts stay is probably the best thing. Who's really available out there anyway for what we have money-wise available. Gerarts mentioned how he is happy at the moment and he wants to continue on this project. Assuming everyone on the management side feels the same way, or the supervisory board, I should say, we're looking at Gerarts next season. We put that poll up in the Discord. What are your thoughts? Are you good with this? I'm sure you are, but what are your thoughts on Gerarts looking like staying next year?
I'm definitely for it. I think, irrespective of the current situation, I think just with a larger lens, we kind of crave continuity at the managerial position at Schalke in general. It's been such an issue for us historically, as it is, increasingly in the modern game. It's always, revolving door managers. But at Schalke, it particularly seems to be an issue. And I think when we found him, not saying this guy's the next Pep Guardiola or anything along those lines, but like when we found him, I think he had a better pedigree than we expected to be able to attract at that time, given the situation that Schalke was in. Second division, bad squad, which is what we were saying from the beginning. Like, the squad is not the same squad we had the last time we were down, off to a poor start under the original manager, and we somehow got this guy who we didn't really feel like should have been without a contract at that point, as a manager, who was willing to come to Schalke for that. So I think we lucked out, and I think, if you're looking at like, all right, this guy survived, but maybe I'm not a huge fan of him. Once again, it's always like, who is going to want to come to Schalke in the current situation? Like, who's available? So for me, I would much rather, if we feel like Ben Manga and Wilmots can get along with Gerarts and they can align on a vision and they can actually work together without that being an issue or somebody having to make like significant concessions in terms of their philosophical tendencies, then I'm all for continuity, and I hope it's onwards and upwards.
Yeah, you're going to have to watch our relationship between Ben Manga and Carl Gerarts going forward, assuming Gerarts stays next season, which sounds like he is. You had talked about Gerarts' flexibility this season. I'm wondering, thinking about it, is it that he's flexible, or he was just trying to figure out what this team is about, what are they best in, and really just trying everything to see what sticks on the wall versus what doesn't, and then ultimately he found his best 11, best 13 players, and kind of stuck with that formation and those players. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's limited to personnel. I do think there were specific games where we changed the approach to some extent and the shape. So I think that's what I'm pointing to some extent. But from a personnel standpoint, towards the end of the season, we definitely had a much more locked in and less rotational starting 11, for better or worse, depending on how you felt about some of those inclusions.
All right. Overall season, I'm with you overall with how the season went. Ultimately finishing 11 points ahead of the relegation zone, which is nice compared to where we were for majority of the season. So, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, it's about average season, like you said earlier. And so, glad it's over. Speaking of over, it's also over for a lot of players and and managers. First and foremost, Simon Terodde. Retiring, it says he's done. It looks like the Bundesliga, because he has obviously the record goal scorer with 177 goals. They gave him a version of the Golden Boot, or the Arsenal cannon or whatever, but much larger size than what Soli's got. Pretty cool gesture there. But thoughts on not only Simon Terodde retiring, but just him in general as being the greatest Zweite Liga player ever.
Harry Kane hates that trophy design.
Yes, Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, look, Terodde, for the most part, seemed to be a player that a lot of people respected and seemed to be a good locker room presence. Definitely had a couple of outbursts that made the news, but those seemed to be outbursts, out of an actual buy-in to the situation and a frustration with, the performances and whatnot, which I guess if you're going to have an outburst is the kind you want to see. But yeah, I mean, I think enough has been said on this podcast about him over the years, but just ridiculously instrumental in our promotion after the initial relegation, record goal scorer that season, record goal scorer, of all time. And somebody that I think hopefully was a useful mentor for Keke Top in this first kind of season where he was really putting himself forward and kind of stepping onto the professional stage. So very, I think, pleased to have had him in a Schalke kit at the end of his career. I think that's really cool that we got, to have a piece of him because he has, a tremendous talent in that division in particular.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think the video that he released, I think just before the last game, where he just showed clips of all the teams he's been on and showed like a mug of everything, and finally it was just like him retiring. Really great done. I expect nothing less from Simon Terodde. Yeah, I mean, obviously I got a Terodde jersey. I had to get this jersey as soon as he joined the club. I went through everything to try to get this jersey. He's obviously one of the greats. Everyone who knew of German football knew of Simon Terodde. Yeah, it's always the stigma of not being able to score in the Bundesliga, but they knew how great of a goal scorer he was in the Zweite Liga. Obviously, has a club record for most goals in the season with 30. And just what he's done in his entire career. Not much more I can say on top of what you said, but it was interesting. He scored 177 goals in the second division. And so they asked him, Sky, being this, what was your most memorable goal of all the 177 goals scored? And he said for him, the goal in Sandhausen springs to mind immediately. It certainly wasn't the prettiest, but it somehow poked over the line. That's when Idrisi assisted
on the baseline.
Yeah. So he said, if you look at the away game with the Schalke fans, how they made it feel like a home game. Freaking Buskins run into the crowd or run into the corner there. The emotions after the game. Goal was in the 93rd minute, and there's a huge reason, a huge goal that led to their championship that year. That was his favorite goal. Do you have a favorite Simon Terodde goal? Obviously, for us, probably more Schalke related. But how about you?
I'm gonna forget one that's obviously better than a lot of the ones. I mean, I'm gonna think of Schalke goal specifically.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna remember what team it was against, but I think I always go back to one of the first games of the season when he was playing first in the second division the first time. Could have been the first game of the season. Ball comes in, I feel like off his, and he plays it off his chest or something, and in sort of one fluid motion just turns and fires into the corner and picks out a corner.
Yeah.
And it was like he didn't have to look where it was, like he knew where it was. It was just kind of like the striker instinct and positioning and everything. And like when I saw him do it, I was like, God, it's nice to have a number 9 again. It was the first time since I
remember we talked about that. Yeah.
And we felt like holy crap, like if we actually feed this guy, he's actually capable of producing something. So I think that was probably one of them. And that season, despite being fairly immobile at age 34, he was unplayable.
I know.
Like that year. So yeah, just great memories for sure.
It was amazing for me. 2 goals come to mind. Obviously, the Sandhausen one was huge. That goal was one of the biggest ones of the season. Also for me, though, the very first goal of that season, it was against Hamburg, one of his former teams. We weren't sure what kind of Terodde we were going to get, and within minutes of the game, he gets a goal to start off the game. I think he ended up having 2 in that game. We're like, all right, we got the guy we thought we were going to get. And obviously the season went on to be fantastic. Those are probably the 2 favorite goals, but he's had so many. His natural instinct. His goals are not going to be always the prettiest, but it's just like the instant reaction, the poacher's type kind of goal that we haven't had since Huntelaar the first go around. So it was really, really nice to have there. Let's see, another player that's leaving, Dani Latza, club captain. Didn't really have a good run at it, first time or second time here, but obviously someone that's obviously very well liked. He's gone. I think it was probably the right decision because even this season when he started playing out at the beginning, he obviously had injury problems 2 years ago, but it just seemed like it could just wasn't up to par with the rest of the players. I don't know if it's age or what, but thoughts on Danny Latza?
Had random games where he was suddenly extremely effective and would score like 2 goals, something like that. But like in general,
Isaac Bergal, he did that. Yeah.
I just feel like in general, just was never as effective as we were hoping he was going to be. Yeah. Even in more sort of basic ways that you would think that a player with experience could be. I don't know. Maybe I'm being hard on him. The one thing I'll say about him, and I don't think this counts because I don't think he even had like 1,000 minutes played this season. I don't know if we want to count people in that for these kind of stats, but he was number 10 in non-penalty goals plus assists per 90 in the Schalke squad this season, but obviously not playing 1,000 minutes, so it's not as great of sample size.
Not many goals this year compared to a couple years ago. Hey, there you go. It's something. We only had 10 goal scorers this year. No, I'm just kidding. Felt like it at times. Eric said Cherlinov disappointed a little. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't too surprised at Cherlinov. Honestly, I thought I wasn't expecting much of him. If he could do anything, even a little bit to help us, I'd be happy with. But I wasn't expecting him to set the world on fire. Honestly, how about you with Cherlinov?
Oh yeah, I mean, he was disappointing. I think for sure. I was expecting a little bit more from him. I know his situation was questionable, kind of when he was coming to us and everything in terms of what had been happening in his career since he had left. But certainly a false dawn with the first goal he scored. And I'm going to talk about that later. So
yeah. So I'll give you a rundown of the rest of the players who are not going to be here next year. Thomas Ouwejan, Blendi Drizzy, Cedric Brunner, Steven van der Sloot, unfortunately. Michel Langer looks like his contract will not be extended. Kind of knew that already. Also not coming back next year, we have Dominic Drexler, Timo Baumgartel. No surprise there. They didn't play at all. They were on the naughty list for a majority of the season. Also, Lino Tempelman, Henny Matriciani, the GOAT, and Tobias Moore. So some of the names that will not be back next season.
Drexler, big disappointment this season.
Wasn't he? I mean, we thought he could be like a super sub, but I don't know what it was that he got. He obviously had some outbursts that Gerards didn't like, and then he just never got back in Gerard's favor. And it was a huge disappointment to have the way Drexler turned out, I think.
Idrizi. Sad. Another one bites the dust from that group.
He talked about too how rough it was for him, especially the last year and a half. But even when playing the U23s and getting called up, it's been so rough for him. And obviously, the team has been really poor since he's been on the team, this senior team. So understandably, but another youth academy product that's gone by the wayside, right? Hopefully, he doesn't turn into like or maybe hopefully he does. It's not against us. The Beckers or the Stripskis or one of those guys that leaves us and becomes good. Fabian Riza, right? So
we'll talk about him later too.
Yeah. So one player I didn't mention, Asan Ouedraogo. They're thinking that Schalke are waiting for Bayern to not only buy him but loan him back to Schalke for one more year to get more experience. Which I don't like him going to Bayern. Better than Leipzig, I guess. But loaning back to us, I do like that because he's one of the bright spots of the season for us, minus the injury. What are your thoughts about that possible rumor? This has come from Sky, this rumor here. But, thoughts?
I mean, look, we know we're not going to be able to hold on to him. So, honestly, that would be, I think, the best possible scenario is that we sell him. Maybe we get some portion of that total transfer fee immediately, which we're able to use towards improving the squad, and we're able to retain him for a year via loan. I think that's a fantastic scenario. That sounds too good to be true, given how Schalke typically negotiates. That sounds like some Rowan Schwarter negotiation, as opposed to what we're doing now. So we'll see. But I definitely expect him to be sold in this window. Whether he's loaned back or not remains to be seen. But I would kind of just bet on him being gone.
And if we get that 15 million from Bayern as opposed to the 7 that we originally heard from Leipzig, I would take that. Just any kind of extra money would help us for sure. Good to see Gelsenberry in the chat. He says, more than particular goals, I love how Teroda's game was all about that. It wasn't about the perfect single touch that puts the ball into the goal. He changed his game for the benefit of the team this year at 36. Yeah, he was much more of a hold-up player, especially with Top, really training him. Karaman as well. I thought a lot of people benefited from him outside of the goals. It was just all the setup and stuff like that. Manager-wise, we know Gerald Asamoah was gone. He had a big send-off with Latza and Tarota. But some other big names that we will probably not be seeing next year. Buskins, Simon Hensler, and Matthias Kreutzer.
Yeah, Kreutzer is what I was going to say, yeah.
Those, at least Kreutzer, Buskins, and Asamoah, it sucks to lose them. Kreutzer, obviously one of these young minds that they're thinking could be a good manager one day. And obviously Buskins and Asamoah mean so much to many Schalke fans. Obviously the Eurofighters and whatnot, but just being legends for the club as well. Thoughts on the four of them, in particular the three that, Kreutzer, Asamoah, and Buskins. Oh, them not coming back.
Just the holy trinity of vibes, ultimately. And you gotta respect that for what it is. I mean, that run that they went on at the end of the season with no coherent tactical philosophy to get promotion was just the stuff of magic. So gonna miss them obviously for their influence in the dressing room and whatever else. And feel bad for Asamoah in particular because he seemed obviously very emotional about it and very sad that his affiliation is coming. It's unfortunate, but yeah, I'll be following what both of them do, obviously with great interest going forward.
Yeah, I will too. I wouldn't be surprised if they go back to some of their old clubs.
Palpatine there. Children with great interest.
Yeah. Ryan says I saw something that Buskins might go to Knappensschmidt. I did hear that too. Until I see something
He's a little
official
old for the youth team, isn't he?
a little bit. I don't know, but Cristiano fit in there, right? He's involved, and he's got more hair than him. But anyway, let's see what else. Oh, so those are all guys going. The expectation is that Gerards is going to bring in more of his guys. Apparently, he tried to bring a bunch of his staff personnel before, but it was a money issue. And now with a bunch of these guys leaving, it's going to free up some money, and then hopefully. For Gerards, he's going to try to bring in some of his guys. It makes sense. I mean, every manager does this. They have their guys that they feel most familiar and comfortable with. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see that. The Sky Dirk mentioned how they believe that we knew Paul Seguin was one of the teacher's pets, one of the favorites of Gerards, and they think that the team is going to try to be really built around Seguin and Schallenberg, two guys who have been trying to be the rocks of Gerard's midfield this season, especially at the end. But that doesn't surprise me, really. The rumor was Seguin's tenure here would lie solely on if Gerard stays or not, because if he's gone, then Seguin's gone. Seguin's mentioned how the only reason he stayed because Gerard's made him feel so good here. So I'm not surprised to hear that, honestly. And who else do we have left after that? I don't know.
Yeah, seriously.
One player I do want to talk about coming in, Amin Younes. He is a name that's on a trial at the moment with Schalke. He has been the last few days practicing with the club. Great dribbler. I know of him from his Serie A days. He obviously played with Ajax as well, with Eintracht a little bit as well, but he did play for Napoli. Really good dribbler, a lot of potential. But the big thing about this guy is that he is a headache in the back room. He's I'm not going to call him an Amin Harit or a the other guy's escaping my name now. Bentaleb. He's not a Bentaleb, but I don't know that. That's what they're saying, that he is a problem child. I didn't really hear this at when he was at Napoli, but anybody who can help us offensively, because we sorely need it. We have no goal scorers. I'll take it. And if anyone can help Kiki Top, going forward, anyone who can attack the defense, because we didn't see that really for anybody else, give him a shot, right?
Remember, like 10 minutes ago, when we were talking about Ben Manga and his philosophy on recruiting players, and you want to make sure the mentality's right and like the focus and the commitment to the project. I don't see how this individual fits into that at all.
No.
Maybe he'll smooth talk his way in. I mean, I think when the thing you're most well known for is refusing to go in for a sub appearance when Erik ten Hag tries to put you on the pitch at Ajax.
Yeah.
I don't really think. I'm not particularly optimistic about it. One would think that maybe Ten Hag would have been better prepared for the Man U situation, given people like Younes at Ajax, but perhaps not. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I'm not putting my eggs in that basket. I mean, certainly a higher pedigree of player potentially than you would expect us to be able to attract at this point. So from that perspective, hey, 30-year-old guy has bounced around some top clubs like Napoli and Ajax, whatever. Cool. But like we said, we're much more concerned, I think, about making sure it's right between the ears. at this moment. And just to Eric in the chat. Personally, I feel like Go-Triciani should be like the next like Irvin or something, or like a supplement to it. Like he needs to just become like a permanent mascot and be like a fan ambassador or something.
Or just be like Timo Becker, show up to the games, right?
Sure, there you go. I we don't see the last of Go-Triciani.
I agree. Hopefully he does well. You know, best luck to everyone who leaves. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think Gerards would keep him on a short leash anyway. We saw what he did with people who kind of spoke up against him this season. It's funny because like he's willing to listen to, if it's like the collective group, like the influential players that come in a group, he will listen to them. But if the individual players who are like criticizing him, he won't take that. And so if Eunice is like that, I feel Eunice's time will be short lived. But we'll see who's going to be part of this hierarchy. You imagine Mueller's going to be part of it, which is. If anybody's staying, I'm happy Mueller's staying because he's like, we need him. He probably gave us 33 points of the 43 that we got this year. It feels like we'll get to him more later. Any other players or managers you want to talk about before I get into expectations and Ben Manga?
No, let's keep moving.
All right, cool. So obviously Ben Manga's here. He's got a lot to do. Money's tight. We're hoping that he can wield his magic and get some extra money for Ouedraogo. Maybe it's 15 million euros like we talked about instead of the 7, which would help us immensely because we have no money. But maybe some other money would be coming out of this. So it seems like we're going to receive 500,000 euros from Hoffenheim with Marius Buller because they've reached Europa League. And also Kabak as well, going to possibly get up to €1 million from him. It says if Hoffenheim qualifies for the Conference League playoffs, the amount will only be 500,000. So I didn't see where they finished this season, but I believe it's going to get $1 million for Kabak and 500,000 from Bulter, which is fantastic. Also on top of that, they're paying close attention to Heidenheim as well because depending on how his statistics ended up in the season, he has some bonus clauses in there, and that could be another $500,000 from Heidenheim as well for Marvin Pieringer, another guy we wish he would have stayed. So there, possibly could have up to $2 million, €2 million there extra. We'll take anything we can get.
The angry tree, more like the money tree. Give me that money. I need that contract, baby. Love those contract stipulations.
That's right. Whoever worked that, thank you. Okay, so that brings us to Ben Manga. Obviously, we have a lot of holes to fill in this team. Many departures, many players just don't cut it for us or Gerards. What do you think are the main areas that he needs to address? Obviously, having the money is going to be hard, but where do you feel where he's going to have to focus first and foremost, and then from there?
So, I mean, as dissatisfied as I was, I think with us in possession a lot this season, we weren't that bad of an offensive team, all things considered. We certainly weren't of the caliber necessary to get promotion. Yeah. But we were reasonably competitive in that area. I think first and foremost, it has to be defense. Particularly when you're talking about a guy like Uvian leaving as well. Yeah. Who we're looking at him for his defensive prowess generally, but that's still another position on the back line that you're gonna have to focus on. If we're able to keep Mulder in goal, that's huge, but we need to be able to protect him and provide something in front of him. So for me, it's the defense needs to be the focus, and then from that point on, I think we need once again some wide talent and another striker up top. Although, like we said, who knows what is happening in the midfield yet with Seguin and some other stuff going on and losing some personnel there too.
Yeah, I don't even know if Karaman can replicate what he does. I don't know if he's still with us contract wise, but
yeah,
this year he was obviously motivated because of Turkey and the Euros. We've seen many players in the past with motivation like that. It drops off after the tournament's done. Some players like Adrian Rabiot, it surges on and continues on. So you never know with that. I'm with you there. Defense has got to shore up. I think, at least in the midfield, we're okay in terms of Seguin and Schallenberg. They came on at the end of the season. And they're pretty competent there. But I'm with you on the wing play. We need some speedsters there, and then a striker up top. I'm curious who is available. I heard a pretty decent name, but the name escapes me now. Who could join us in terms of a striker. Someone who could work with Kiki Top, obviously. Karaman, whether he starts or comes off the bench, will be huge. But I think overall, we got to see better offensive play, better defensive play. Obviously, the team was more solid at the end, but offensively, we struggled mightily. So we need to figure out something there, and depth in general, because obviously injuries hit us. Injuries is probably a big reason why we were hurting so bad at the beginning of the season, and as we got healthier, we started getting on this run, and so maybe a little bit more depth.
Last 2 years, honestly, remember back when we signed Vandenberg. Vandenberg goes down immediately. Stuff like that. So,
Whatever
No
happened,
right
I guess we're
backs.
back. No right backs, yeah. Vandersloot's gone. I don't know. I doubt Brandon Hoppy's going to stay.
Bruner's gone.
Bruner's gone. Merkin's like the only one back there left.
Patriciani's gone. We have no right
Is he?
backs.
Yeah. We have nobody. Mueller. It's going to be Mueller back there. That's it. But I agree. Mueller needs some help back there. He is Superman, but, man.
Where's McKenny when you need him? He'll play right back.
He's doing well at Juve. That's what he's doing. So, yeah. It's
Should get as much money as Rabiot's getting from Juve, but he's not.
I know.
my
It's not.
opinion.
It's not. So, I mean, Ben Manga has a lot to do. We'll see. This is a big summer for him. Obviously, the goal standard is going to be Rovan Schroeder. What he did 2 years ago was magical. Last year, obviously, it wasn't as good of a job by the management team, but we'll see what happens with Ben Manga. Obviously, our friends at Hey Eintracht Frankfurt told us, this guy is a big reason why they're as good as they have been over the last couple of years is because he kind of built that foundation. Can he work some of the magic again? We will see. There was conflicts between him and Waffer, why that didn't work out, but this is going to be success or failure depending on the relationship between Wilmots, Gerards, and Manga going forward. And so I'm curious. We're gonna have to watch the transfer and all the moves that happen and see what happens, because, as you said, this is a rebuild 3.0 here for third year in a row. It seems like so. To be determined, but I'm excited. I'm optimistic. We got to improve on this season. And we're 20 points off of a promotion playoff spot. That's huge. So.
And if you look at what the club has said, that they have a 3-year goal to get promoted and stay promoted. So if you think about that in terms of 3 years, that means that means year 2 we need to get promoted, and then year 3, you know what I mean, at a minimum, and then year 3 we need to stay up. So that's pretty optimistic, I think, given our current situation. It gives us a year cushion next year potentially to establish a new base from which to launch from, personnel-wise under Manga. So we'll see how quickly he can get it done. But yeah, I think that'll be the main thing that all of us are watching this summer, is just who's coming in. And how much money's being spent, what the loan moves look like, that kind of stuff.
Something that triggered me. They talked about. I can't find it. So, Gelsenberg says we probably haven't seen the real Gerards football yet, but will there be a suitable squad next season? So I know that there has been conversation between Gerards, Mark Wilmots, and Ben Manga. As in Gerards has said, he told the guys, he said, hey, I told them which positions I needed players for, and also made concrete suggestions. Then the club has to decide what is financially possible. That's coming from Waz and Andreas Ernst. So, okay, so they're already talking at least, so that's good. We'll see how it goes. For those curious, the season is coming up fairly soon.
He likes the back 3, doesn't he? Preferably.
He does.
He tried to do that initially, and then he switched to like a 4-4 diamond for most of the rest.
He
of
saw
the
our
season.
center backs. I was like, "Fuck, I can't do this."
I mean, So it will be interesting to see if we go back to that. To Gelsenberg's point.
So on June 22nd, the new squad will meet for performance tests in Gelsenkirchen. The training camp will be in Mittersill. It takes place second week of July. Due to European Championships, Schalke doesn't know when the Schalke Day will be, so it's an annual event. But the season, we do have a start date for the season. It is August 2nd. It's about a week later than it was last year, but nonetheless, it's early start. And so August 2nd, we have just about 2 months of vacation from the club here a little bit, at least from game time, I should say. So it's coming up quick, but summer will be fast as it is. So, all right. That's all I have really to talk about. And before I get to the awards, unless you want anything else you want to chat about before we move on.
I'll be in Europe this summer for the first time briefly in Amsterdam and in London in early July. So if anyone's listening in either of those locations and wants to grab a beer, hit me up.
There you go. Recruiting on a recruiting trip, huh?
Absolutely, yeah, scouting, yeah.
All right. Let's get over to the awards. Thankfully for Eric, he kind of started this off in the Discord, and I'll read his awards for this season. We'll go one by one, but his best player, Marius Müller, his breakout player, Kiki Top and Asam Ouedraogo, Most consistent player, Keenan Karaman. Best game, St. Pauli. Biggest disappointment, Cisse and Baumgartel. And the worst game against Magdeburg away. So good start for there. Let's start with best player, Jack. Let's start on a good note. Let's go reverse order. I want to end on best player. End on a positive note here. So worst game for you this season.
So I touched on this one earlier. For me, it was against Kaiserslautern, the second half of the season. It was Cherlanov's, maybe his first game, I think, and it's the one where Cherlanov scored. So Keenan Karaman, one of his, I think, 8 assists this season as well, playing a lovely through ball, knifing forward, kind of around the defender, like very well weighted. Cherlanov runs onto it, toe pokes it past the keeper. Huge emotional high, right? But we go on, I think we lose that game 4-1, potentially against Kaiserslautern. That was a Kaiserslautern team that we beat 3-0 to start the year, and a Kaiserslautern team that had lost 7 of their last 8 games at that point. So, given what we had done against them earlier, given the form that they were in, we're bolstered by the addition of the signing of Cherlanov, who scores. Yeah. That result was a gut punch and was, I think, probably maybe arguably the worst moment, maybe next to the Hertha game of Gerard's tenure, I think. Yeah,
so I'm kind of along the same lines of you and Eric, really. I mean, so a couple games stood out for me. First, we in the DFB Pokal, we go and we beat Braunschweig, right? And we had them just days later, and then they go and beat us. They were the worst team at that time, I believe, and they beat us with us being a man up. And so that game was really sore for me. I'm with you there on Hertha Berlin game where, yeah, we had that tough loss that Eric mentioned against Magdeburg, where it's, it was like, what the hell are we doing? It was I guess if you're looking at the players on the pitch, that was a worst game. 3-0 loss against a team that was right next to us on the table. It was embarrassing. But that Hertha loss as well, where we thought, okay, here we're starting to get some positivity from the game before, and then it is completely destroy us 5-2. And so those 3 games really stuck out to me, I think, all for their different reasons. If I had to pick one of the 3, I think the Magdeburg probably is one of the most embarrassing games we had this season, but the Braunschweig wasn't any better, and either was the Hertha Berlin game. So all 3 difficult games, I think, for us. And I love the Kaiserslautern shout as well. 4-1 loss after losing to Hamburg, too. It was just a grim time for us at that time. We were like, do we get rid of Gerards? Do we not? That was the question at the time. So Ryan says his worst game was the first league match against Braunschweig. Yep. And then he says collectively said something against him right here. Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. All right, moving on. Biggest disappointment this year, and that can be whatever you want to take of it. The biggest disappointment for you. And yeah, I think you touched a little bit about it earlier with Cherlanov, but I don't know. Where are you going to go with this?
I mean, I think emotionally it's probably Cherlanov just because we had such, nostalgic hopes for him. But obviously, we also talked about it as he was arriving. The context was this is not a guy that's in peak form or really in a great moment of his career. To expect him to suddenly be the solution is probably not realistic despite our hopes. So that for me was definitely a disappointment. Man, outside of that,
I got one.
Why don't you go ahead? I'm struggling on that one.
So I was leading one way, and then I'm reading Gelsenberry's quote here, comment where he says, nightmare game for him was the opener in Hamburg, conceded 5 goals. That game is where we realized, oh my God, our defense is as bad as we thought. We knew going into the season our defense was bad. And then we saw the Hamburg game, and we're like, oh my God, we just get obliterated. Mueller saved the game, probably saved 10 goals from happening. And at that point, I'm like, what the hell is this? My biggest disappointment is Thomas Reis. After last season galvanizing the team, nearly surviving the Bundesliga, we thought, I thought at least, this is kind of why I picked him so high this season. I said, with Thomas Reis, surely Zweite Liga should be a little bit easier, and they should be able to build on what they did at the end of the season and continue forward. And we fell so flat at the beginning. We had no defense whatsoever. Rice had he couldn't figure out what to do defensively. Couldn't do anything offensively. We obviously could see Terodde wasn't the same player he was 2 years ago. And just Rice's epic failure in such a short amount of time, I was like, what the heck is this? And we're all scrambling at that point to find a new manager, which we found Gerard. So Thomas Reis for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Definitely Thomas Reis. I think Ryan just mentioned Cedric Brunner in the chat. That's another good one. He was just worse than we expected. Yeah. This one might be a little bit harsh. I think Lasma as well. I think Lasman was the signing that we were fairly excited about, and I don't think he ended up getting as many minutes as we thought he was going to. So that's part of it, and that's I think maybe we just didn't know how to use him properly. But yeah, I don't think he had the impact that we were hoping he was going to have either.
Yeah, that's a great shot. Drexler's another one we mentioned. Drexler, guy. We didn't necessarily think maybe he's going to be a starter, but coming on as a super sub, and obviously the way that things unraveled behind the scenes, big disappointment that he wasn't able to contribute to the team. I think
Kazuki,
yeah, that was and it's a lot of disappointments this year, unfortunately. Those are just some of the tips of the iceberg. Let's see. Okay, best game. I think it might be everyone's best game, but I'll let you go.
Ooh, I'm looking them over right now. I'm trying to think what I want to do. If you have one, jump in. But
well, obviously the main one for me is going to be the St. Pauli win, especially how low we all felt after that Magdeburg game. 3-0, embarrassing game. Then coming up against the best team in the league, who was by far the best team in the league at that point. They were on this huge undefeated run, hadn't lost a game all season long. And we're like, well, this is going to chalk us up to a loss. Let's go ahead and at least get results against Paderborn and Hertha. And what do? We beat freaking St. Pauli out of nowhere. No one saw this coming, including St. Pauli, and we won 3-1 there. So that was one of the games for me. If I had to pick another game, I don't know. That's the main game for me. Honestly, I think that was a surprise for me. I mean, you could also say maybe the Nuremberg game, but we always seem to beat them. So I don't know. I'm gonna go with that.
That was the other one I was gonna mention. And it's I don't know. I don't think we had that many standout performances where in any game I was like, I'm really thrilled with how things went there. So I think your St. Pauli game is probably the correct call. The Nuremberg game, just because it was sort of a lone win in a sea of draws at the end of the season where we really needed like some sort of injection to give us a little bit of like wiggle room and kind of feel a bit more comfortable and take the pressure off heading into games against like Osnabrück and stuff like that. So but yeah, I think it's we usually have more answers to this question than that. I think that probably shows how the season went.
Yeah. Everyone seems to say the St. Pauli match for sure. All right, most consistent player. I don't know if you'll say MVP or not, but most consistent player. I think it's everyone's same pick, but you go ahead.
So I'm going to give. I don't know. It depends on how you want to look at it. I'll say Muller for me personally. I'm going to go Muller.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah, he was just somebody you didn't have to think about, didn't have to worry about.
Yeah.
Consistently did his job. Like whenever we're talking about the starting 11, whenever like oh, I wonder what he's going to do, that kind of a thing. So. And to that point, also post shot XG minus goals allowed, he led the league in that, and that's sort of like the primary. That's like sort of the main like shot stopping sort of goalkeeper statistic, if you will. So he was the best in that category and that per 90 in terms of his matches played as well. So that's like I think indicative of how consistent and strong he was.
I like this shot by Gelsenberg. The Osnabrück is highly underrated in terms of best games of the season because the game was moved because of the issues right with the stadium, and so we didn't know how the team was going to react. We were all on a roll, and they kind of the DFL threw a wrench in our plans, and it was at a neutral site in Hamburg, which we've always had a good luck there. And we came out. We could have botched this completely, and we came out 2 goals in the first 5 minutes and really just destroyed them 4-0. That's a great shout.
And shout out to Osnabrück too, because both of their games this season were games we beat them 4-0, and so those were the two Schalke 04s of the season for us.
There you go. So, but yeah, most consistent player. I like that shout out about Muller. Obviously, Karaman is going to be the one who takes all the plaudits for good reason. I think he had one bad game this year, and I want to say it was a Dusseldorf or Elversberg match where we could have won, but he displayed so poor. But he was scoring goals left and right. He's the only guy who was scoring for us, it seemed like, from large portions of the season. He ended up in double-digit goals, 8 assists. Really, if it wasn't for his goals, we would be in a lot tougher position than we are right now. I think him and Muller are the 2 standouts for the season. If I had to give anybody else a shot outside of that, Merkin probably. I thought he was our best defender, provided offensively, and at times defensively as well. Yeah, did have some weak games defensively, but that'd be another outside shot, I would say. But for me, Karaman, Mueller, so those are probably the three best players I think this year. Let's see. Okay, breakout player. Interesting here.
So I mean, I think the answer is Ouedraogo. Because I don't expect us to hold on to him for a length of time, I'm not going to give it to him, and I'm going to go with Top.
Okay.
Ouedraogo feels like the kind of talent that shows up at Schalke and then immediately gets poached, and we never see him again. And I feel like there's a potential that we could have Top for maybe a couple seasons at least. I mean, I feel like coming into a pretty bad team. And obviously, without knowing the kind of season that Toronto was going to have, you're coming in alongside a guy who also scored like 30 goals last time he was in this division.
Yeah.
So for him to come in and kind of carve out a role for himself over the course of the year and end up, I think, let me see if I even have any notes on this or anything, but like, I don't think I do. No, actually, no. So he played 900 minutes less than Toronto ultimately this season, scored more non-penalty goals, and still bagged a couple assists too. So I think that's pretty impressive from him, and I think I'm looking forward to seeing more of him next year, and hopefully he can lead the line and kind of get into double digits for us.
Yeah, I like that. Thomas Kalish is a good shot too. He was one of the few positives in the defense this year. Sanel says, "Who is going to be our striker next year?" Well, to be determined. Kiki Top is certainly one of them, but who else is going to be with him? We will find out. So I don't know if this counts, but he's not really our Kabadai. I really like what he saw. Yeah, it's fair.
As far as striker, there's a striker who's coming off of a championship, a title in Turkey by the name of Ahmet Kurucu, who potentially could be available if we wanted to go back down that. I don't know. But
14 goals this year. Yeah. That would be something for Schalke America, at least. I don't know about the rest of everybody else, but
for this
podcast specifically. So, but yeah, Kabadai is a good shot. Breakout player of the year. I'm not going to give it to him just because he came from Bayern, so I feel like obviously he's going to be a good player. Ouedraogo as well. Kiki Tops for me is the answer. Though I would give a shout out to, again, Derry John Merkin, because I didn't expect him to do anything. I didn't know who he was, didn't know anything about him, and he did perform so well. Marius Mueller as well. I didn't know anything about Marius Mueller. I did hear people talk about how good he was before, but he showed his worth this year too. So a lot of good shots this year. Weren't many, but the ones that were good were all in the running for all the good awards. All right, last one. Best player.
So I didn't give it to Karaman for most stable. I gave it to Mueller, and that's because I'm giving it to Karaman for best player. And the reason I'm doing that is just because this season I think valued his offensive contributions.
Yeah.
When we didn't have anyone else doing that really, more than I valued what Mueller did in goal. I felt like, obviously defense is important. I think if you talk to a team like Hertha this season, who certainly had the offense to get promoted, but were just so horrendous defensively that that cost them a chance to get promoted. I'm not saying defense doesn't matter, but I feel like, in order to win matches, got to score goals. And, we had that whole streak of draws. Like sometimes 3 points is really what you need. And Karaman stepped up in a season where we needed offense, and somebody that I was critical of in the past, and particularly down the stretch, just scoring goals from outside the box, from weird body angles, just making stuff happen, and then contributed close to double-digit assists as well. So, both ended. Both setting up and finishing. I think Karaman was hugely important this season.
So depends how you want to look at this. If I'm looking at just best player, period, it's Marius Mueller. His reaction, what he did, he just by far, I think, and I think it's by far the most talented player on this team. His reaction time is just fantastic. Really galvanized his team, and I think he's a huge reason why we went on this run at the end and stayed in so many matches this year. But if I'm going MVP, I'm kind of with you, double-digit goals, almost double-digit assists. Keenan Karaman was so huge for us this season, and so, he just beats out Mueller. I think if Mueller played the entire season, he'd probably get it. But, again, it can't be understated what Karaman did for us this year, especially when none of us thought. I mean, we talked about it before the season. We knew Karaman could contribute a little bit here and there, but and even during the season, it's not like he was lighting the world on fire in terms of style and this, but he was just getting goals. He was getting goals, both feet, doing the things, setting people up, and he scored majority. He contributed to majority of the goals this year. And so if it wasn't for him, who knows where the hell we'd been? You know, him
Yeah,
and Muller,
11 non-penalty goals, 13 total, 8 assists. Yeah, big time. But yeah, I totally understand the Muller shot. Like I said, his post-shot XG minus goals allowed was like +7 something.
Yeah.
I mean, that means that he conceded like 7 less goals than you would expect based on the expected goals after the shots taken, like based on where it's placed and all that kind of stuff. That's like, I mean, that's either luck or that's good shot stopping ability. And over the course of the season, I don't think it's luck. So,
Exactly.
Meanwhile, Fairman was like -4 something, by the way. So, hopefully that settles whether or not that was the right decision. But yeah.
as good as Mueller was this year, the one thing he didn't do well was Gerrard's had this point ranking system, you know, based on what you did in practice and this and that. And he lost to the GOAT, Gutriciani, and being the loser that he was in this little ranking thing. The result was he had to wash Matriciani's car as a result of losing to the GOAT. So he didn't win everything there. So, but I think Mueller and Karaman, they were just fantastic in a sea of crap this year. Those two were the lights of the season. So
I want to know what kind of car Gutriciani drives.
it looks like, I'm sure it's like some kind of Audi. What is it? It is it's hard to tell. It looks like some kind of Audi or Volkswagen or something European. Going out on a limb. I don't know. So, well, I guess you have to watch the video to really tell what it is. But anyway, that'll put a wrap on this one, I think. Can't really do too much of in terms of what our projections are for the season because we don't know what the hell kind of team we're going to have. And shit, not only tomorrow, but just, you know, for the next coming weeks. So let's see how the season or the off-season shapes up with Ben Manga. And then we can maybe talk about it, maybe obviously in the preview podcast. But yeah, let's take, I think we all deserve a good 2-month hiatus from Schalke games, at least. There still be news going on, but I think we all deserve it. After this season, we need a break. So I know Jack and I need a break more than anything else. But yeah, Jack, any final comments here before we get out of here?
Kind of a non sequitur. I just wanted to shout out Fabian Reza real quick because I think he had himself a hell of a season and just goes to show you when we get rid of some of our young players and, you know,
They succeed.
Man, we could have used him this season. But once again, I was just kind of looking over like various league leaders and various stat categories. Fabian Reza himself led the league in expected assisted goals and per 90. Expected assists per 90. He had the most successful take-ons with 87. He had the most progressive carries with 181 and the most carries into the penalty area with 64.
Was that all against Schalke? Was it all against
Yeah,
Schalke?
probably that one game against But I mean, just like around the final third, just an absolute like ball progression monster, particularly on the dribble, like getting around the edge, feeding in dangerous balls, like, you know. And then I think he had, I want to say like, it was more than 15 like direct goal contributions this season. So yeah, really, really good. And I just wanted to give him a shout out.
And you gave that shout out. I'm gonna give a shout out. Well, you already did. We did. Ahmed Kutuscu, obviously 14 goals this year, and you know we'll certainly miss. But also Timo Becker and Steven Skripski, they obviously got promoted with Holstein Kiel, and they both had fantastic seasons. And obviously, you know, they're forever in Schalke hearts for coming to the game after winning their game at noon and coming over to Schalke watch Schalke win as well. So yeah, shout out to them as well. And like I said, a lot of former players are doing well. Whether in the Zweite Liga, mostly in the Zweite Liga, but also in the Bundesliga as well. So yeah, you know, hopefully they can eventually pay back the favor, you know, and get back to us at some point. With Amin Yunus comments, or I mean, yes, it was Amin Yunus. I guess the Max Meyer rumors are probably dead now in the water if Amin Yunus signs. So sorry to those who were hoping to get Weltklasse Max Meyer back. I don't think it's gonna happen. So. I know we weren't on that, so.
Man, we were talking about Max Meyer when we started this podcast. It's 2024, and we're talking about Max Meyer transfer rumors. Man.
I mean, we'd still talk about Huttler if we could.
That's true.
All right, Jack, where can our followers find you on social media?
At JMMangan, JMMangan on Twitter. And with that, I believe, actually, it's not. It's officially X now that they got rid of the Twitter web addresses. I don't think anything goes back to that.
It's always Twitter.
With that, I think that's a 100% record on the season. Not a single fumble in reciting that. So I think I need a trophy or something.
Fun fact: I've actually messed up my name more than I messed up your name when I've done yours. So yeah, funny how that works, right? Maybe you can get the Harry Kane trophy there too as well, right? Like Soli's got. You can follow me at R_KHARMAN. Follow us everywhere across social media. Twitter.com still works for me. That's what Ryan says. Shout out to everyone, not only in the chat, but who's followed us this season. Obviously, when Schalke's doing well, it's easy to follow your favorite podcast and listen to Schalke. But when we struggle like we did this year, it's always a difficult listen. And so we thank each and every one of you for supporting us along this whole time here. Season 8, around the corner. Unbelievable. I've been here for a long time. But make sure you follow Schalke America everywhere across social media. Follow us on YouTube if you haven't done so already. Like this video, be much appreciated. Share it with your friends, your colleagues, your family, whatever. Just share it, share the love. And then join our Discord. We definitely want you having our Discord. We had a lot of new members this week. Join there. We talk Schalke all the time. Talk a lot of shit too as well, but mostly Schalke. So shout out to everyone in the Discord as well. So, all right, season's over. We'll catch you back maybe August 2nd, maybe before that. I'm sure before that, but we'll see. I'm sure any breaking news happens, we'll post a video here and there. We'll do also a review video on the Carl Gerarts video that we had sent out earlier this year. So anyway, I'm done talking. Jack's done talking. We're getting out of here. Have a great summer, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, Glück auf.